So more or less what we were discussing was the XSLT, which is the XML language only to perform transformations using XML as the input and then transforms the data into whatever format is being required and doing the build transformations with the help of functions that the XSLT provides, using the XSLT functions, and so on. So just like consuming the XML data and then transforming it to something else, whichever is the required format. Sometimes Workday does not allow so many transformations, because in Workday, if we talk about transformations, we are limited to calculated fields. But in here we are exposing the whole lot of XML XSLT world, wherein whatever function is accessible in the XSLT, we would be able to apply transformations using that. So it uses the same concept. The XML XSLT is called a style sheet. So this is where your whole of the XML will be bounded into this style sheet tag and everything will be written inside it, the logic to get your consume your data, and then it will have a version which is XSLT 2.0. Right now, 3.0 is also available, but that is mostly used in the studios. Then you have some default preferences, and then you have your namespaces. Getting started here. So, if I just open the namespace which is mentioned in your XSLT that shares the same namespace, because whenever you are creating the XSLT you will have to mention that what namespace data you are consuming in your XSLT. So this would be the same namespace that is output in your XML source record. XML source file. So we just copy the XSLT from there. Itself same namespace we are going to use. And then there are some default namespaces from W3 org, and this could be because we will be using a lot of functions from these. So, as you see the XML and XSL, which is coming from your W3 org transform. So you will see, we will be using a lot of functions on XSL. So you will see XSL style sheet. So XSL style sheet is an element function from XSL namespace. You will see a lot of functions XSL, template, XSL, variable, XSL for each. So we are appending every function that we are using with the prefixing with XSL, because this is how it denotes that from where it is coming, so that we can differentiate if somewhere it is mentioned as WD, and then the entry name. So it will differentiate that what is coming from WD and what is coming from XSL. So that many namespaces we have and report. It helps us identify the unique field values. So we are converting our XML, default XML data to a CSV file using this XSLT, and that's why we have mentioned an XSL output element with the method is equals to text, so that our output file will be a text file. We are declaring a variable. So this is how you declare a variable in the XSLT. You do the XSLT function and then variable. You do a select and then you input the value in your variable, what you want to use, and then you define the name of your variable and you get it whatever you want to name it. Then this is your template function. So this matches here. We are matching this template. Template matches like where you want your cursor to be. We want our cursor to be applied at our. So whenever you see this /, this means the root directory, and the root directory of our XML is, I just quickly open. Not be exact, but whatever it is, it will work for us. So it is your data. Suppose you are applying the XML here. So the root directory will be your WD report data. So we want our cursor to be on the WD report data. That's why we are matching the template to the /. / means the root directory. So if you're matching the root template by doing this, and then we are applying the templates, so apply templates means that we want now the cursor to be into WD report data. So what this does is apply template to declare a template. Apply template means you're declaring a template with a particular X path wherein, when you do, the template match and then give the same X part. That means whatever you have applied in the template match here. Now you are using it. So it's like a function that you have declared. Use it within the X path and whenever you are going to use it. The processor would understand that you want your cursor to be in the whatever match you have provided, whatever the X part you have provided. Up until there, your X part will be defined and your cursor would understand and where it want to be. So here you have defined the XSL apply template with the Workday report data, and then you have closed the template in here now, inside this template, because now every processing of your record, which is there in your XML, will be inside this template. Because now we have asked our cursor to match with the WD report data. So now our cursor would be inside the WD report data, and now I will be processing everything inside this template. That's why my template is getting closed here. Then, since it is my CSV file, in my CSV file, I have to define headers. So I'm defining my headers here with the function XSL text. So XSL text getting opened here, closed here, and then inside the XSL text I'm defining my headers for the CSV file, whatever I want. So I have employee ID, I have department ID, I have email and so on, and then between these I have defined the separator. So let's say I want my file to be pipe delimited. That's why I have my columns, my headers, separated with the pipes, employee ID pipe, department pipe. So in the text file itself, I have defined my headers like this, with a pipe separation. So this has defined my headers. Now the use of the variable which we have here, the line feed variable that we have used. It will help us the cursor to go to the next line. So we have declared the function here, and now we are just using the function. So when you declare the function with a name and when you want to use the function, you just append $ in front of the function. That's where the processor would understand, and since it's a $, it's kind of a variable. So you do XSL. So wherever you need to define XPath or select a value, then you choose this function, XSL value of select. And then in the value of select I am giving a variable, this function also accepts the XPath, just like in the below. If you see, we are giving the XPath. So either you give the XPath, so that the cursor would go to that particular XPath, or you give the variables like this, with a $, a prefix. So that you would understand it as a variable and then it will go and find its value wherever this value is declared. So after defining the headers, because we want our cursor to come to the next line, so the CSV file can be generated. So, immediately after the defining the headers, I am calling my line feed variable, which will apply me the next line. And then after that, I want now to process each and every row which is there in my XML file. And as you see here in our XML file, our number of workers are getting repeated, as per the WD report entry. So WD report entry. WD report entry. So once I'm inside my report data I need to loop on this WD entry. That means these many employees are there in my output and I have to process each employee's, every data which is inside. So how will I do that? I have entered the line feed, now my line has been into the next. My line has come to the next line. Cursor is in the next line. Now I want to write the data for the first employee, so to repeat this cursor for each and every line. How do? We use a for each function? So how do you access it for each? This is the syntax for it. And then in the for each, we are providing the again select, we are providing an XPath that on what XPath it has to do the repetitions. So it has to do the repetitions. So usually XPath is complete XPath. We don't mention like from the midway.